You're welcome to Host TV channel. We are happy to have you here. Can you please tell us your name or where you're from?
My name is Engineer Dr. Mike ISEGHOHI. I come from UROMI and I am a member of the royal family of this town.
We are informed you bought over the CASSAVITA factory in UROMI. How true is it, sir?
That is very true. In the course of privatization, HIVER, the company that I lead, purchased the CASSAVITA plant from the government, and it is for the purpose of creating employment in the vicinity, and that's what we did.
So what gives you the confidence that the facilities of the factory will work?
Well, in the introduction, I mentioned that I'm an engineer, and by the grace of God, I have a PhD in engineering, and facilities like this before I've headed, and have removed moribund facilities like this, such as the BENIN brewery, from being completely down. I revitalized it before, and many other companies. Now that this is HIVER's company, we will do everything possible to make sure that it comes back to life. If there are any hitches or any machines that are not functioning there, you can be sure we'll replace them and get them working. I'm very confident that we'll get it done.
So, sir, please tell us the reason why you choose to invest so much here in UROMI.
Like I also said earlier on, I am from here, and I see my people that their biggest problem is actually having their children go to school and come out and they are not employed. And instead of investing in safe havens outside the country, which is open to HIVER, I thought it was, and I still believe that it is better to invest here and employ our people instead of employing people outside and leaving our people in abject poverty. And that is what motivated me, and I believe that that is the way to go. And doing that, you can be sure that others are watching. I believe that if we are able to get this right, others will emulate what we have just done. Okay, the people here, some of them have had the opportunity to be employed elsewhere before. But of course, there are many that are not yet in a position to be employed. We intend to train those ones. And those, you see, there are various categories, and these people will fit into the various categories. It's not all of them that we have to retrain. Some of them are already trained. And thus, the people are not all employable. Those that are not yet employable, we intend to employ them all the same and train them. And there are others who are not directly from ESAN land. This is open to the entire state. Therefore, people from other states and from our state that fit into these places will be there initially, and we intend to train others to now take over from them as the time goes on. And remember, this is a factory that is supposed to feed other factories. It is a feeder factory. In other words, this is supposed to be a hub where other factories will grow from. And that's what we want to do. And you can be sure that the employment that will be needed here, or rather the number of people that will be needed here to be employed, will be much more than you can imagine as at this point in time. Okay. Putting my reputation on the online, what we are doing here is supposed to be a prototype so that subsequent governments and other governments would see what we have done and will encourage them to partner with other private partners so that this PPP that we are talking about is the way to go, and that's what we want to do.
What is the staff strength you intend to staff with?
Well, you know that this company or this factory has been moribund. Therefore, we need to get it back to functioning before we can really come out and give you a full staff strength that we need to take in there. However, the factory is supposed to have a staff strength of 500 people per shift. That is not going to be possible initially. We need to get it running. And once it's there, of course, we will now move forward to get the number of people we require. However, I think we'll start off with about 200 people and move on from there as the machines and the production comes into as soon as we can regularize the production and everything in the factory.
Tell us, what advice do you have for those who have money kept in the bank without owning any investment, most especially in ESAN?
Well, first and foremost, I want to say government in the process of negotiation have been very, very forthcoming. They were very open, and I want to praise them for that. And if this is how they go about their business, then of course, I would like to encourage other people to come in and invest instead of keeping their monies away. Invest in Nigeria, invest in the Farmland, invest in Edo State. I would say that from what we have seen so far, negotiating with them, the PPP is working wonderfully. And as a German trade engineer, I can only tell you that the best place to invest is your own home, and that's what we are doing right now. You'll find that in history, all over the world, you will find that those in diaspora are always the ones, or more often than not, the ones that invest in their places of nativity. And that is when you get the wheel of progress rolling. Those of us who've had the opportunity to be outside from this country should also emulate that and do the same thing. We should invest in a place of nativity. And that I will also encourage the government to get in touch by all means with Nigerians who are outside this country to come back and invest in here, because the opportunities are there right now, and they should utilize such opportunities.
Please, sir, could you share with us your various products?
Yes, initially, we intend to produce 3 items. They are 1, industrial starch, 2, cassava chips, and 3, flour. Those are the 3 main things we want to produce initially. However, subsequently, we want to bring in things like pasta, which includes noodles, macaroni, and the rest of them. And we also want to produce ethanol, blended fuel. In other words, this is blended fuel there. We'll be talking about using things like ethanol to produce fuel. In other words, you do not now have only fossil fuel like we have in now. You blend them like they do in the States and the rest of them. And that will make the fuel that we use in this country cheaper than we are getting right now. There are various areas as well that we intend to go into. animal feeds, fish feeds, and so on and so forth. That is why we say this is going to be a hub for agro-allied companies that will grow from this. Now, we want to use this opportunity to prove to others in diaspora that they have a chance to invest in here. And so if they can see this as the stepping stone, they can come in here and learn and find a way to get their own things going much later by seeing how we have been able to get this running. In this
Do you have any plans for exportation?
Yes, I am coming from the outside world myself. Therefore, if there's anything that we want to produce here, it has to meet with the standards they have to meet with world standards. And in the process of discussing with government, I've made that very clear that we intend to make sure that we meet with international standards. Therefore, whatever we produce here will have to be exported, will of course meet with standards for it to be exported. That does not mean that we will only produce for the export. We will also want to make sales in Nigeria. However, we also believe that if anything is good enough for export, that thing is good enough for Nigeria. But what is not good for the export is not good enough for Nigeria. Therefore, we will not make anything that is substandard here. We won't allow that to happen.
What is your vision and mission for the project?
Yes, we do intend to meet with all standards, like I said earlier on. That is really, really our mission. But our mission will be making sure that we do not only employ people outside, that we get our own people employed. So we want employment for our people, and that is our mission in this case.
Can we know how you intend to get your raw materials for production?
Yes, we intend to encourage our farmers in the vicinity within a 300 square kilometers from the hub here, and we will want to act as off-takers for such farmers. In other words, we'll guarantee that whatever they produce, so long as what they produce meets with the standards that we will teach them, anything they produce, we will take them off them. And that is in an off-grass scheme. And that we will encourage them because we link them up with the banks, so the banks will be glad to encourage such people by providing funds for them. And we will guarantee taking off whatever products they produce. And we've been able to put those things in place already. They're just waiting for us to take off, and that's what we'll use.
How many number of mechanized farmers do we have in UROMI here that can meet to the quantity you need per day?
People have been encouraged to have such farms before, and they were disappointed, and they didn't have off-takers. Now that we are going to act as off-takers, such people are going back to the farms to do what they need to do. And you'll be surprised the volume of cassava that we can get from these small farmers cumulatively. And that does not mean that we're not going to encourage mechanized farming. Of course, that will be on the second stage. But initially, while we are doing our testing, we intend to get them from the local market at the current price.
So, sir, when you commence operation, don't you think it's going to affect the local consumption in the market here within UROMI?
Oh, wonderful. Now you're coming. That is exactly what we want to see, because that will encourage more farmers to go back to the farm. If we are taking off a lot from the farm, then others will now see reason to go back to the farm. And that is why we are saying our people need employment. When we say our people need employment, it's not only the direct employment that we'll do in the factory. These are the ones, this one of going back to the farm and the rest of its suppliers, that's what we call the indirect employment. And that's what we are trying to energize here.
So, are you telling us now that you have a scheme to empower those who now want to go back to farming to provide raw materials for you?
That's exactly what we want to do.
And how do you intend to harness to get these farmers? How do you intend to get in touch with them?
We are already in touch with some of them, and we will continue to do that. And the difference now is that they do not have to be the ones looking for funds to source for funds to get this done. We will encourage them to see us, to get in touch with us, partner with us, and we will link them up with our banks. And our banks are very willing to assist them.
So do you have a farm on your own, or does the company tend to have their own hectares of farmland where they can get raw materials for themselves, for the company?
Now that we've just come in, government has been kind enough, they gave us some land that we can use as our farmland. What we intend to do with that farmland, of course, is just demonstration farm, where we want to have hybrid and see what we can encourage others to do. But we cannot farm enough for ourselves. Even where we have large farms, we will still encourage others to farm, because this is the way to go.
So, sir, how fertile is the land within your vicinity? How fertile, and how are you intending to bring in fertilizers or other means to facilitate the production of raw materials?
We have a special breed already that has been tested that makes cassava produce twice a year. And we have seen the types of products produce that we'll get from such places. So it has also been established that in and around ESAN land here, we have the most fertile soil for cassava planting. Therefore, the initial idea to site this factory in ESAN land did not come from the blues. It was as a result of that. That is why it was brought in here in the first place. Now that is the situation, we also have a lab attached to this factory. It is our intention to continue to investigate and find out what other facilities we can use, because we are not interested in just pouring in fertilizers without knowing what type of fertilizers we are going to use in there. That is why we have a demonstration farm. We now know what to give to our farmers, and they know what to do. We'll teach them what to do.
But sir, you are not narrowing your product to a particular breed of cassava, are you?
No, of course not. What we'll do is we'll blend whatever they have with what we are saying is special. We'll blend whatever they have with what we say is special, and that makes up what we want to do.
So, sir, how much have you been able to educate the farmers in your territory here about your products, your company, and how things are going to be run?
That is what we are talking about. We're just starting now, and we don't intend to jump into the farm until we have finished the renovating and revitalizing the company itself. Once we are done with that, we'll get that in place.
So, sir, do you foresee any challenges at the moment with you having to do with the farmers or the product when time actually comes for you to kick off?
I think that's a very good question. I come from the vicinity, like I said earlier on, and I'm already in touch with the people. Besides, I know exactly what their pains are and their shortcomings are. We intend to work hand in hand with them. If they have any other questions or if there are any other bottlenecks, we intend to work on them together and find an amicable solution.
I remember I visited the site sometime with you, and I discovered it's still in the state of abandonment by the government. When do you intend to start your cleanup and your maintenance of the facilities in the factory?
Well, for your information, that has already started.
Okay.
We started working on there were many things the place was vandalized, unfortunately. A lot of things were taken out of the place. But I had due diligence carried out. Therefore, I won't say I'm not aware of those things. We saw them, we knew those things were gone. We are replacing them. We are working on them to get back. But I think we'll be back to production within the next 3 months. And I also believe that we'll be fully in production in the next 12 months. And by then, we'll only be talking and looking into the areas of expansion, because this is going to be, that way we are going to get, I'm very convinced we are going to be expanding very soon as well.
So talking about UROMI, can you tell us something about the commercial activities in UROMI that actually attracted you, citing or investing so much in UROMI?
Yes, well, it is common knowledge that UROMI is a commercial city, and we have a lot of agro-allied commerce going on here, and with this, I'm sure that more activities will come into the place. So we are not really going to start teaching them to do commerce, because they know commerce more than you think they do. Looking at the banks, you can see that all banks have their branches in UROMI. It is not a fun fair thing. They came in here because they found good business in UROMI. Therefore, I believe that we too will find some good commerce in this place. And like I said earlier on, we are not only supplying UROMI, we are not supplying Edo State. We intend to go global. Therefore, the distance between here and Europe remains the same for all of us here. Anything you're exporting from Nigeria goes from Lagos and the rest of it. So we just move our products and move them out.
So, sir, how accessible is your factory? Is this factory to the city center in UROMI, or to other people, client, customers who will be coming from different parts of the state?
Oh, luckily, UROMI is well positioned in the first place. UROMI is connected to Agbo, Onitsha on the one hand, connected to Abuja directly on the other, and to Benin. In fact, if you're going towards Saple, Delta, and the rest of it, so UROMI is a hub, it's a center. Therefore, it doesn't matter what part of the world we are exporting to, or any part of the country where we are sending our products to. UROMI is a hub that can easily be accessed. And luckily, the factory itself is along the new Agbo Road in UROMI, and that's a federal road.
Lastly, I don't know, can you give us your last word? Let's know much about the products, the company, its team, and any other things you just need to tell us.
Yes, Mr. Journalist, I actually told you, I gave you a rundown of the list of the products that we will make. And I actually expected you to ask me about Gary which is the first thing we talk about. Once you talk cassavitation, you're talking garification.
I'm so sorry for
I
that.
actually expected you to ask me about
you got
gari,
me.
but you didn't ask me. Well, that's my joker. I will give it to you now.
All right, thank you very much, sir.
Okay.
It's been a pleasure talking with you, sir.
All right, thank
All
you.
right, sir.
Thank you.